Okay, question on Facebook from Misty, all right?
Thank you for this opportunity. As a senior spouse and a parent of a military member, my concern not only lies with taking care of the men who have put off medical treatment in order to get in one more deployment, but how our community can prevent the younger guys from pushing their bodies and minds so far that they end up in their dad's shoes. Can these young warriors be tested for TBI in a timely fashion? Football players are being made to sit out when they get a concussion. Is there a way to test the men after an op, or at the very least a deployment, and if they do have a concussion, have them rest for a period of time? I understand that war is not a football game, but preserving the health of these men is not only cost-effective, it is right. I am also wondering if there has been any talk of giving the Purple Heart to warriors diagnosed with TBI. My husband doesn't care about that, but as a wife, I believe they deserve to have recognition of their wounds. I think it is more important for the families than the men. Lastly, how are these warriors' diagnoses being protected? With all the gun debate, I am concerned our men will be labeled by this administration as not fit to own a firearm. Thank you for your time.
Okay, well, thank you very much, Misty. Let me you had about a three-part question here, so let me see what I can do to answer them. One, on the firearms, medical information is protected. So my expectation is anybody that is found to have TBI or frankly any medical problem, that information is not going to be releasable to the public. That puts that person in a point where they're not allowed to buy a firearm and exercise their constitutional rights. On the Purple Heart, this was an interesting one because Georgianne and I were talking about this last night as we were reviewing some of the questions. Clearly, if somebody has been in an IED where the blast, in fact, renders them, seriously unconscious, and it is clear as a result of enemy action, because that's really what drives a Purple Heart. As a result of enemy action, they have TBI. Then I think there is some merit, and I don't want to go too far out on a limb here, but I think there is some merit for an individual getting a Purple Heart. Now, I will tell you, we have a number of folks, because I was just with one last week, or actually earlier this week, who has TBI that was not as a result of enemy action, but was as a result of the fact that he was a breacher. And a breacher is, in our community, a guy that blows doors down and does other things. And what the doctors told him, it was very minor TBI, but it was still TBI, was that the kind of constant trauma from the breaching is probably what caused his mild TBI. So I think what we would have to look at before a Purple Heart is awarded is the nature of the incident that led to the TBI. Getting back to your kind of broader discussion on kind of TBIs in general, and I think this is a great question first. One of the things we do every time guys come off the battlefield is, and certainly if there has been something that even appears to be a traumatic event that might cause a TBI, is they're required to take kind of a test that kind of walks them through, okay, did this happen, did this happen, did this happen? And a medical professional will look at that test to determine what is the likelihood that the individual has TBI or received a concussion. So while it's not like the guy on the football field, I don't want to understate this. If somebody has an event where they think that there was a concussion, I guarantee you when he comes back, the docs are going to look at him and they'll do everything that happens to just like a football player does when he gets a neurological exam from a doctor. But there are other methods, I think, that NFL teams use on the sideline to very kind of quickly determine concussions other than just the doc looking at them. But one of the things we do as well is what's called third location decompression. And third location decompression is something that we're trying to institute with all of the returning units. Now, I will tell you, it gets mixed reviews from some of the spouses because you say, hey, look, we're going to take your spouse, and on their way home from combat, we're going to send them to someplace for 48, 72 hours, and we're going to have them just kind of chill out. And oh, by the way, they're going to spend time with the doc, the psychologist, and the chaplain. And we're going to take a look to see whether or not that individual has any cases of TBI or PTSD beginning. and we do what we call the neck-up checkup. So somebody sits down with them. They're required to do that for 20 minutes per individual, longer if required, to get a sense of whether or not that individual is kind of got any problems as a result of their deployment to, in this case, to Afghanistan in most cases. So I think we're doing a reasonably good job of looking at those things, but also where we need your help as a spouse. I mean, we really do need your help, and it's one of the things that I talked to all of the commanders about today, is to make sure that we destigmatize anything that has to do with TBI, PTSD, any sort of spiritual or mental problems. We've got to get the individuals to come forward. And I would ask you as spouses, if you see that your husband or wife has a problem, do the right thing. Come forward. Talk to somebody. We will take care of them. We're not going to pull their clearance. We're not going to put them away. We're going to do everything we can to take care of them. And if I find out that the leadership within Special Operations Command is not taking care of a soldier, sailor, airman, and Marine, I will personally do something about it. And I made that point very clear to the commanders and the senior enlisted that were with us. But I need the guys to come forward. What I told the commanders is create an environment so that they are willing to come forward. I think many of you know my Command Sergeant Major and his wife Lisa have been on the road quite a bit, and my CSM and his wife talking about kind of their marital problems and what Chris and Lisa have been through. That has been very, very good for creating an environment where he has been able to say, look, in this case, the Admiral understood I had a lot of problems when I was at Delta, and he brought me to JSOC, and when I was at JSOC, he brought me to SOCOM. The reason I did that, he's one of the absolute finest men I've ever been around, and clearly one of the finest Command Sergeant Majors I've ever had work for me. So the fact of the matter is, I got it, he's got issues, but let me tell you, come forward, deal with those issues, and I will take guys with issues that perform well any day. So the point is, help us help you by bringing your husband or wife forward if they've got a problem. I think the systems are in place to deal with them if they're coming back from deployment. But if you think that's not the case, please let me know. Thank you. Okay.